You've just heard from LA Police Chief Jim McDonnell discussing his department's response to the unrest and the
Hey guys, how you doing? So what we're seeing here is it's getting crazy out here. It's getting crazy. Hang on to your seat. You know what I mean? We're gonna see what's going on and what's not going on. So right here, downtown LA, protesters, migrants, illegal immigrants. These are the sons, the daughters of the what they call anchor babies from the people who came in to America, which they say they came in illegally. So we're seeing now they're burning things down right in front of the police face. I mean, I can't believe how close quarters it is. Everything is just close to each other. Um, they're burning that up while the police is right up the street. You see, so it's gonna get hectic. I think they're gonna shut down downtown LA, and it's gonna affect everybody financially. You know, so I drive through there also. But this is very sad that um, it's taken this route. It is going to take this route. And plus, police officers, that's the Democratic Party. These police officers are Democrat. A lot of them are anchor babies. They are not going to put their parents in jail. So Trump needs to call in the Marines because the next escalation is the Hispanics, they're going to go home and they're going to tell each police officer and the cartel, Mexican cartel, any cartel, drug cartel, they're going to La Raza, everything. They're going to say, hey, any police that goes to work tomorrow, you're going to get shot or we're going to do something to you. Because the Persians are, you see, the people are letting in, they let in people here. So this started in 1970 to 1979. The Shah of Iran came to America with investments and opportunities like that for their interest because they got kicked out of Iran. So they came down here to do investments in real estate. And yeah, in their country, they do slavery. They do slavery. So pay people, pay somebody. What's that? Pay people? We have slaves in Iran. So when they came down here, they're looking for cheap. They said, we ain't gonna pay no white boy no $50 an hour. We ain't gonna pay no monkey $36 an hour. You better, man, open that border up. Open that border up. We'll show them. You don't want to work for us? You don't want to work for us? You're lazy. You're lazy. And they started bringing in the people from down south into California, into Texas. You know, where do these people work? They work at white businesses controlled by who? Contractors who are basically, Iranians, Persians, and Caucasians. And at the same time, these are the same people that need to send them back. So it's just double standard. It's just hypocritical. It's just crazy. I seen the one where it says, what is it? They don't want me to hold the Mexican flag, but they have what? The Israeli flag up there. And I saw that I was like, oh snap, that's true. Got him. You know what I mean? So we're here, we're looking at it. Let's look at another one live stream. This one over. See what's going on here. My oh shit. slowly. I thought I put it downtown LA. Man, my computer's just, I don't know what the hell it's loading at the back. Let's go back to the live stream. Yeah, so this is really crazy what's going on. Yeah, we're just watching. Yeah. So this is live right now. This is live. This is not like we're not watching no video. We're live. We're looking at comments right here. Everything. Sorry, my computer's moving slow for some reason, and it decides it wants to move slow right now. But I'm trying to get, which one is this? This is 7. Okay, I thought I picked. Man, come on, man. Damn, LA's big. A lot of people are still going on with their life. They don't know that there's a protest going on. They're like, oh, come on, let's go. And then they run into this and they're like, oh my God, what's going on? Because everybody's in their own world in LA. Like each block, each city, like you go up here, they don't know anything that's going on here. They don't even know it exists except they're interested in it. But this is what's going on right now. We're watching it live. I knew that this was going to happen. What's going to happen next is organized crimes and sabotage and all that. Damn, what is up with my computer? It just picks the wrong time. It's like it's just you're making a YouTube video. You know, it's like. What the hell's going on? Why are you freezing? You were just working nice and dandy before the Come on, are you serious? What's all this? Anyway, okay, there's another one up there. That's this one. So, jeez, something's going on here. So, it happened, and the Hispanics been here, and they've been kicking the black people out of every community, and white, you know, because they rather have them. That's what the Persians want. They want Hispanics here because they work for cheaper labor. They're building the skyscrapers. They're cutting the grass. They're babysitting for the spouse to go to work. You know, where they're renovating rebuilding their homes, turning it from a $900,000 home to $1.5 million home, putting all the basic amenities and all that. You see them in the neighborhood. You see them on the lawns. You see them as the mailman. They're coming out now like the whole downtown LA police force is Hispanics. So they're not about to put their own. Come on, man. What is this? What's going on, man? Maybe they're. Well, let's go. I don't know what the hell's going on there, man. Some ridiculous stuff. So downtown LA, right here, and you see this. They burnt down what they were burning down was the parking lot. The parking lot attendees paid. Now they're putting trash in there. They're trying to create a blockade. What they want to do is create a blockade so that East LA starts at Alameda, downtown LA, and runs all the way to. Let's look at the map. With this slow ass internet giving me technical problems right now. You didn't give me no problems before, man. Don't start right now. So let's look at the map. Let's look at what's going on. Jeez. So we're going to look at the map. We're going to see what's going on. So this is downtown LA right here. This is downtown LA. So what we're seeing is downtown East LA starts off right here. This is where East LA starts. It starts right here, Alameda Street. Boyle Heights, that's East LA. Okay. Anaheim, see East Los Angeles. It's East Los Angeles right here. This is all East Los Angeles, really. Yeah, see that? So right here, it even goes high. It stops at Pasadena, really, because they needed the immigrants to stay close by to be able to go anywhere around here to fix anything or build anything, you know? And this is their headquarters right here. Right here is East LA. They got the hospital, they got everything. Highland Park, San Marino, Temple City. No. Up here is Persian, white, and Armenians. And Hispanics right here on the border. East LA, Montebello, Commerce, El Monte, Baldwin Hill, West Covina, Valenida, City of Industry, all the way till, this is also a Persian area, Persian and white only. And Roland Heights, that's East LA, Hacienda Heights, that's East LA, that's Hispanics. And then it goes up right here, they overpass Walnut and Diamond Bar, white only, and then going to Pomona, that's where I grew up at, and then right here Ontario, Upland, and then it's just Hispanics. It's just, that's Mexico right there. But we got Rancho Cucamonga still holding it out. White right here, Upland, white, Claremont, whites only right here. But it's been populated with Hispanics. So that's East LA, and where the event is going on is right here. It's right here, and Alameda right here. This is where the protest is taking place right here, by the Little Tokyo Art District, Alameda Street, you know, right here at 7th Street. So that's what we're watching right now when we're looking at this. Live. This is live. This is not something that is going on. I don't know what the hell's going on with this stuff. You guys are just doing stuff over. Okay. Whoa, no. Oh no. Oh no. Now they're burning up trees. These two guys burnt up the tree. They ran away now. They got people on horses. They're gonna chase them. They got one of them. They were burning the trees right there. Oh snap! It's on.
And so what we're seeing here is, on the right, officers on horseback.
Here in California, we have lots of climate events. When you have solar and a power wall, I get to control all that. I like the independence. During the day, when the cost of energy is lower, the solar runs the house. When the cost of energy is higher, the power wall runs the house. It automatically knows when to do it.
The last bill was a minus 64.83, but look at the credit for the years.
Disappointment lies with the federal government.
The reason why I didn't play because I wanted to play commercial the whole time.
Situation from happening. I was trying to encourage the administration that if they deployed the National Guard in Los Angeles, it would create a sense of chaos. It's the last thing our city needs. Our city is still trying to recover from the wildfires. And you just think about how so many people were impacted by that. And that's an example of where the administration was helpful. And to go from that situation to where we are now is just really tragic. And I think it's so unfortunate. It's the last thing Los Angeles needs. I have no exact timeline. I cannot tell you that. That's
the
part of the problem,
timeline
right?
is
We do not know.
Trump
I have
is going to
heard a variety
stretch
of
this
days and
so he could
weeks.
have martial
I
law
certainly hope
and
that
never
this is
leave
over.
office. I
The
bet you
last thing
there's
the
an
city
80%
needs is
chance.
civil unrest.
This is all in
And the
Trump's
last
favor.
thing
He's
the
playing
city
his cards
needs
right
is civil unrest
for
that's
his
provoked.
interest.
We are watching now pictures from Air 7 over downtown Los Angeles.
I was just in
And
downtown
this
Los Angeles.
statement from
I saw the fire
Secretary
burning
of
by the
Defense Pete
freeway.
Hegseth
Yeah.
discussing the possibility of deploying U.S. Marines on American soil. That drew a small group of protesters to Camp Pendleton today. More than 4 dozen people held up signs at the main gate there with slogans such as "We're on a slippery slope to fascism," and "Your oath is to the Constitution." President Trump has already federalized and deployed National Guard members, California National Guard, to L.A. after those protests erupted over Friday's immigration raids.
Everybody said that now they're hitting grocery, they're hitting liquor stores.
Patrick Saunders is an
They're
Air Force veteran.
vandalizing.
He organized the Camp Pendleton
With the police, the police be standing right there, and they're doing it.
We want to kind of remind them of what their duty is to us, but additionally we want to make it very publicly known that we condemn any sort of action by the administration of using active duty or National Guard troops on U.S. citizens.
Meanwhile, U.S. Northern Command confirms 500 Marines from 29 Palms are prepared to deploy status
They're rolling in
to augment and support the DOJ's protection of federal property and personnel efforts. That is a quote. We will keep an eye on that. In the meantime, we are watching people now milling about, moving from place to place in parts of downtown Los Angeles. This is a Chevron station that is near one of the points of conflict. People are going in there. We don't know what they're doing at that gas station.
Now, those people on motorcycles could be driving around and burning stuff, starting fire.
Have been involved in some of the unrest here that are gathered there. We do not know what they're doing. I don't see people coming out with a lot of things in their arms.
So they got Asian,
that's a good
they
sign,
got
I guess, that
they got
not being looted,
black,
but
they
it's
got
troubling to see
Spaniard,
people in these circumstances
French.
gathering. And that is the area there where a wrought iron fence had been ripped off from a...
Anytime they could act one of those, trigger one of those
wrought
stuff.
iron fence had been ripped off from
an
area right around the street and placed in the middle of the street and then fortified with dumpsters.
This is
another one of these makeshift barriers that people have been using to try to confront the police, and the police are moving in and moving those barriers out. There was a fire a short time ago right in front of that barrier. That has since gone out. Nearby, about half a block to your right, is where some people had set up a...
I wanted to...
Hi, I'm Scott with Superior Home
Look at that.
If you're looking to sell your house and want a guaranteed cash offer, I'd be honored if you'd give us.
Police officers actually moved in and
that's all they
put
want
that
us to
fire
play.
out themselves and move people out of the way.
That's it.
So the LAPD is responding, but as the chief himself said, at the moment they are overwhelmed. There are more people causing trouble than there are officers to stop them at this point. And whether the National Guard is in fact needed tonight is something that he says will have to be assessed. In the meantime, ABC News reporter Matt Gutman was behind the police lines earlier today. He showed us the projectiles that were coming from both sides of these clashes.
Playing like
from the LAPD pushing everybody back
now that
and using a tremendous amount of non-lethal force. You can see those flashbang canisters, the sponges, 40 millimeter like this, that they fired at people just to continue to push them back. I don't think I've seen this much use of non-lethal in a very long time. We've also seen significant number of rocks, bottles, projectiles that are very dangerous being hurled at the LAPD on this side of the skirmish line. The size of the rocks and projectiles, I'm going to see if I can try to find another one for you, that were thrown were significant.
Come on, man.
You might have heard I'm going through a little upgrade with my tats. So when Verizon announced that everyone gets a free phone...
Trash. Get off my station. It's the commercials. The commercials are messing up my stuff, man.
The curb, chipping away at parts of the street or different places on brick buildings and getting those pieces of rock to throw at the police. And a word about those so-called less, or not so-called, they are less than lethal. They're designed to be less than lethal, less likely to be lethal weapons. They're meant not to penetrate the skin. They're meant to disperse the crowd, to cause pain but not permanent injury. But they can, in fact, be lethal. And there have been cases of people who've been hit in the head by these projectiles, because even if they don't penetrate, it's the equivalent of a very hard blow to the body, and that can, in fact, cause permanent damage. People have had eyes put out, people have been blinded, people have had facial bones broken, and suffered internal injuries from those less than lethal weapons. They are not, however, bullets and are not intended to kill.
I went there doing some recording.
But they are definitely something that you do not want to be trifling with.
But I was very nervous because
going through this, they are using up quite a bit of those munitions, as Matt Gutman was mentioning, and as we have been mentioning on our air. Some of the officers at the scene were starting to run out of those, and they're having to be brought in from other areas of the city because so many of them were being deployed. In fact, you can hear at various times during our discussions and interviews with either police officials or with the mayor, you can hear flashbang grenades and less than lethal rounds being fired, along with
Obama did mass immigration. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that ICE was out here arresting people during Obama years. And people used to say Obama when they see me. They call me Obama. And I'm like, what? It's like, we got the nerdy look. So when people want to beat me up also, because I remind them of Obama, so they want to beat me up. So they would look at me and be like, steal my equipment and everything. So,
station there. What are you seeing from your bench, Michael?
Yeah, Mark, we've been focused on this intersection.
Get some gas. Get some free gas. This is a barricade.
Individuals that appear to just kind of continue to be setting up a few of these barricades as LA continues to push the crowd more and more north. So this is just the latest one. And I see people kind of making a run for it there, but we've been focused on this gas station at the top of your screen, because that's the reason why there's been a crowd around there is just because that's there was such a big crowd that was pushed further north. And trying to monitor a few different things here to see why people are running.
Who go around and do a lot of terror. They could start fires. They could break into
further
things.
to the south on Main Street, south of Cesar Chavez Avenue. That intersection you're seeing right there. And LAPD continued to push that crowd further north. So now you're just seeing the crowd just kind of scatter in a lot of different directions. So a couple people went to the gas station. We didn't see any signs of looting or anything like that in that particular store right there. So that's definitely some good news. But the concern, obviously, is individuals that continue to make barricades, such as this one there on the right side of your screen that's been, as you said, fortified with a couple of dumpsters and a wrought iron fence. We've seen an item set on fire there next to that fence, but it appears that fire may be out as of right now. So LAPD is trying to avoid situations like this, but they're also taking into account all of the resources that they are pouring into the area, and they have been pouring into the area, and they're trying to figure out a way to balance those resources. So they are not at this time making a push further north to knock down that barricade as they had been with previous barricades. They're just kind of holding the scene as it stands right now, maybe to have a little bit of a respite, have a little bit of a calm, regroup, and then figure out the next move. You see the Night Sun from the LAPD helicopter that is over the scene here. We've seen the Super Puma Rescue 5 helicopter. That's the big LA County Sheriff's helicopter here at the scene as well. They've been helping law enforcement keep an eye on things. That parking, that paid a park structure at the center of your screen was set on fire earlier, but LAPD actually moved in with a fire extinguisher, and they were able to put that fire out. We were talking about an individual, possibly with a flamethrower, that set fire to a couple of trees there on Main Street, just south of Cesar Chavez. We did see an individual that LAPD believes to be the individual with that flamethrower taken into custody. So that person has been arrested at this time, and LAPD is going to figure out what to charge that person with. Obviously, for having a flamethrower and using it on city streets, that will be very serious charges. And you can see here that's Main Street and Cesar Chavez, and that's where a large contingent of LAPD is staging at this time while they figure out their next move. I want to ask Rob to widen out the shot. Let's look to the south of City Hall, because that's where another group of protesters was located about 30 minutes ago, and we haven't been able to see them for a few minutes now because we've been focused on the group to the north. And there was about 500 people down there to the south. It appears that that crowd may have more or less dispersed at this time and maybe gone their separate ways on Spring and First Street, as you can see right there. So LAPD kind of breathing a sigh of relief as far as the south side of their the area that they're kind of watching right now. But you still have a multi-block area of downtown LA in and around City Hall, I should say, that LAPD is keeping an eye on. You have that scene at the center of your screen, which may become a crime scene, more or less, the lanes of the southbound 101 freeway, where people were throwing pieces of concrete and bicycles and bird scooters and signs from that Los Angeles Street overpass onto the street below. You see all of that debris there. You see a number of those highway patrol cars, and I think, those are all highway patrol cars down there. You see that they're parked under the overpass, and that's because the ones that weren't parked under the overpass were heavily damaged by items thrown by people on the bridge. And LAPD, the reason why they moved north to begin with was they had to clear that bridge to prevent further damage to those patrol cars down below. You see one of them on a flatbed tow truck. That is the car that was pretty much set on fire earlier, but CHP officers were able to get in there with a fire extinguisher and put out the majority of the fire before it was completely destroyed. But that's going to be a vehicle that's probably going to be a total loss. You see all that debris there in lanes. That's going to take a while to clean up, and as I said, probably a little bit of a investigation to figure out what charges to file against the people who threw a piece of concrete down there onto the freeway. Those are the southbound lanes of the 101 as you approach the 5 freeway. So still a few prongs of action here that LAPD is keeping an eye on, but it appears, at least for the past 20 or 25 minutes, that we're entering a little bit of a moment of calm while LAPD kind of regroups and figure out what their next move is going to be.
Yeah, Gabe, it occurs to me as we're watching this, there are people driving through the area as if nothing was going on. I think a word of advice would be avoid downtown Los Angeles right now. Just stay out, try to go around it, because you don't know what streets are going to be blocked at any point. You don't know whether you might run into a barricade, you might run into a bunch of people who are up to no good. So just stay out of downtown if at all possible. All these vehicles that are trying to traverse the downtown area, I don't know if there are any games or any events happening in or near downtown at the various venues right now, so that might complicate matters as well, just adding to the congestion and traffic in the area. But stay out of downtown if you possibly can. Former Vice President Kamala Harris responded to today's event. She had a statement. She wrote in part, quote, "Los Angeles is my home, and like so many Americans, I am appalled at what we are witnessing on the streets of our city. Deploying that National Guard is a dangerous escalation meant to provoke chaos. In addition to the recent ICE raids in Southern California and across our nation, it is part of the Trump administration's cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division. This administration's actions are not about public safety, they're about stoking fear of a community demanding dignity and due process. Protest is a powerful tool, essential in the fight for justice, and as the LAPD, the mayor, and governor have noted, demonstrations in defense of our immigrant neighbors have been overwhelmingly peaceful. I continue to support the millions of Americans who are standing up to protect our most fundamental rights and freedoms." That from former Vice President and former presidential candidate Kamala Harris. Governor Gavin Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass leading the charge. They're blasting the Trump administration's decision to deploy the National Guard after 2 days of protests over federal immigration raids. But the war of words with the White House only escalating tonight. Eyewitness News reporter Joy Rand has been following this political firestorm, this fight. Joins us now live from our newsroom with more on that. Joy.
That fight only growing tonight, Mark. This is a situation our country really has never seen before. It's not unusual for the National Guard to be federalized. We have seen it in the past. Most recently, from what we can ascertain, it happened in the 1960s with John F. Kennedy federalizing the National Guard to allow black students into school, as the governor, namely George Wallace and other officials, were not allowing students into school, breaking federal law. So the federal government had to come in, take over the troops there. In this situation, it is a little different in that the governor didn't want this to happen, didn't give his permission, and it wasn't because federal law wasn't being executed by the local government. It's because the leader of the federal government wanted to prove a point here and take over and use these these state troops under federal power. And so both the governor and the mayor are accusing President Trump of inflaming passions to provoke a response, saying he and his administration are the ones who want violence. Here's a look at some of those National Guard soldiers in Westwood today, guarding the federal building there. We saw it in downtown as well. Governor Newsom today formally requesting that the Trump administration rescind their, what he calls, unlawful deployment of troops in LA County and return control of the National Guard to him. He says, we didn't have a problem until President Trump got involved. And in fact, we heard from CNN reporting that the Lieutenant Governor, Eleni Kounalakis, is saying tomorrow California will file a lawsuit to try and regain control of the California National Guard. But tonight, the president is doubling down on social media, claiming the protesters are paid insurrectionists, and that word is going to be very important moving forward. Take a listen.
We got violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it. I think that you're going to see some very strong law and order.
So we spoke with law professor Jessica Levinson today, who says while federal deployment of the National Guard is legal, it typically comes after that state's governor makes the request.
The last time that National Guard troops were called up under federal control without the governor's request was 1965. So this is exceedingly rare and legal, but I think what's really important for people to know is unwarranted. There's no indication whatsoever in LA that National Guard troops are necessary to maintain order. The governor has said there's no need. The LAPD has said there's no need. And really all of this seems to be an unwarranted escalation. The president has the capacity, but he shouldn't use it, and it's been very rarely used previously.
So JFK did it in the early 60s, Lyndon Johnson doing it there again in 1965. Now again, it's the use of the word insurrectionist that will be key here moving forward, because the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and the President have suggested that if the violence continues in Los Angeles, Marines from Camp Pendleton will be moved in to take over securing the city of Los Angeles. That would be U.S. troops on U.S. soil against U.S. citizens. That is largely forbidden. The only way that a president is able to do something like that is by invoking the Insurrection Act. That means that the president would have to claim that the country is under attack by an insurrection. Is that happening right now in Los Angeles? It would be a wild legal battle for the president to bring in U.S. troops to face U.S. citizens. And more tonight from Governor Newsom, specifically for residents of Los Angeles. The governor is here tonight. He's urging protesters to speak out, but to remain nonviolent, saying, quote, give them the spectacle they want. Do not give them the spectacle they want by turning violent, referring to the Trump administration, who the governor says wants to see violence play out as he could score political points as things devolve here in Los Angeles. We'll see how this plays out and expect to see some lawsuits filed tomorrow on behalf of the state of California against the president and his administration, Mark.
All right, indeed, Joy. And when you talk about troops being brought in to deal with violence such as this, it's a crowd control issue. And troops are trained in other things. They are trained to win wars. They are not necessarily focused, at least in training, in crowd control and using the tactics that police use in urban areas to control and deal with violent crowds. So that will be a significant element that we're going to have to watch for, of course. And we're seeing here another fire that has been set in the downtown LA area. Gabe Santos is over it. What do we have that's burning here?
Looks like a cylinder of some kind. They appear to have been piled up here at the intersection of Spring and First Street, and the LAPD is nearby, but they're not too close. They're kind of letting this be for now. Their efforts are still focused on the situation on the north side, and I'm looking up north of Cesar Chavez and Main Street, and I see another little fire burning there earlier where we were watching those individuals that set up that blockade. And you can kind of see as we pan over from south of City Hall, as we continue panning to the left, Rob, a little further down to the north of where that gas station is, you can see there this new, not a new fire, but it is definitely a fire that has been coaxed accordingly, and it looks like there's a lot of cardboard in that dumpster, and individuals have set that dumpster ablaze. So you now have two bonfires, if you will, illegal bonfires burning in the streets here in downtown LA. And LAPD at this point has taken this time to regroup their forces and figure out which one they want to tackle at this time. But you have an individual with drums there, you have this dumpster ablaze, you have another little cylinder there on the ground also ablaze. And as these fires continue, LAPD is going to have to decide which one to tackle, because at least at this time, they don't have the resources in place to take one or the other, unless they really coordinate that and really focus on sending a skirmish line to the north and sending another skirmish line to the south. You're going to have these two separate kind of hot spots, these literal hot spots burning, this one on Main and Alameda, and the other one near the intersection of First and Spring Street. So still tensions rising high as individuals continue to set fires here in the downtown area.
All right, this one a literal dumpster fire. The dumpster fire, of course, has become kind of a metaphor for a failure, a catastrophic failure amongst people who should know better. And so this is what we're seeing play out now in downtown Los Angeles. Of course, the fire that has really caught a lot of people's attention and has gone viral, really, the images were those Waymo cars that were set on fire during the protest. A number of them were kind of parked on the street. Remember, these are driverless vehicles, of course, so there was no person inside to kind of get them out or make a decision as to where they should go. They were sitting there, parked on the street, and as the protests and demonstrations were going on, someone set them on fire, and I believe it was 5 of them that actually burned to the ground. Bruce Thomas, our law enforcement expert, joining us now to talk about what we have seen thus far today and what we're seeing into tonight. And Bruce, I heard an interview with you earlier, and you were saying that what we could expect this evening was kind of what we're seeing here, is that there are going to be smaller groups of people who are really bent on destruction, who are going to go around causing as much mayhem as they can. That seems to be playing out.
Yeah, these are not the protesters we saw during the daytime who were, utilizing their First Amendment rights. Yeah, it did get out of control with the overpass on Spring Street, with the CHP vehicles, with the Waymo vehicles, like you said, over in Alvera Street area. But what we're seeing now are, these are anarchists. These are not law-abiding citizens. These are people that want to cause problems, and they've come into LA to do so.
Wow, and as you're saying that, we're watching somebody who is doing backwards donuts in that intersection. A man driving through without a shirt on with this minivan. Not sure what his intentions were or what's going on there, but this guy's taken off at a high rate of speed. And there's people out in the streets right now. We don't know if he was angry at the protesters or part of the protest. We just don't know. But there's so many people out walking around the streets, law enforcement officers, other people that are out there, and he's putting all of them at risk now with whatever he's doing here. This is just more craziness. He was doing those backwards donuts in that intersection Seemingly, it looked to me like he was trying to target somebody. They were throwing things at his vehicle, and it looked as though he was trying to circle around and try to get somebody. I don't know, but what we're seeing now is he is slowed down. I'm not sure exactly where this is. If we could get our locator up from Air 7 just to see what exactly this guy's. It's Alvera Street. It kind of looked like Alvera Street. Well, he's driving around Alvera Street. He's got no shirt on. He's driving that minivan. It just stopped. I don't know if it ran into a bullard there or what, but it just stopped. And now he's backing up.
Mark, I don't know if you could hear me.
Go ahead.
LAPD is aware of this individual, but I'm not sure if they really know what to do. I was going to say he appeared to be trapped in that area with those blockades, and now he's flying down Main Street back to where that blockade is at an extremely high rate of speed, slamming on the brakes now. This is Cesar Chavez at Main Street, and there's so many people just out walking around right now. I don't know if he's going to slow down before he gets to this barricade. You see some people running. We're a little bit blocked right now because we can't see what's going on the other side of that building. So I'm not sure if this guy in the vehicle stopped or if he continued on. Zoom back in, left or up. I think that's him right there. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Not him. No. So we just kind of saw this out of the corner of our eye, and I'm not sure if this guy is agitated by the protesters or was with the protesters, but then we saw him doing these backwards donuts, and then other individuals started throwing rocks at this vehicle as he continued doing those donuts at high speeds. Now you see a crowd racing to the east, looks like maybe to the west. There he is now. Continuing to drive extremely erratically. I'm really worried that this person is going to drive so fast that he's going to run somebody over because there's just so many pedestrians running around, so many people with their phones out. This guy's already hit multiple things. You see the bumper damage, almost hitting that vehicle head on, and people are continuing to throw rocks at him. This is Alameda and Cesar Chavez. I think that guy was trying to go up to the driver's door. More people throwing things at this vehicle. Again, we don't know the connection this vehicle has to this protest, if any, if he was just in the area and got upset, or if somebody may have hit the vehicle and that sparked him. But this appears to be an individual that is upset, is unstable, and is now driving at a high rate of speed around the Chinatown area and Olvera Street. We're going to continue to keep an eye on this one.
There he is right there. He has stopped. He has stopped occasionally. He was stopped by a bullard before. Out. He ran into a barricade of some sort. And he's not out yet. He did open the door. There was a lot of front-end damage to this minivan. We're going to watch this play out, but look at the speed. Even when he backs up, he's backing up fast. He's hitting the gas pedal hard. There are people out in front of him.
Oh, no! God. Oh, okay. No, I thought he was going to hit the motorcycle.
It looked like he was aiming for him.
Yeah. This person is clearly upset and just driving erratically, not in any sort of mental state. That's going to be a part of Union Station, and I'm not sure if we're able to get Air 7 on the other side of that, but we may. Okay, that's the vehicle right there.
I want to bring in
and around. Yep.
I want to bring in Bruce Thomas because you're watching this too, and this just, if things weren't bad enough.
This may be in a closed area. This may be some kind of a. Oh, those are the railroad tracks.
This guy is definitely out of control beyond what normally you would think.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, he's putting a lot of people in danger here. We don't know his motive. All we know is that he's driving really fast. He appears at various times to have been aiming at people with this minivan. People have been throwing rocks and bricks and all kinds of things at him as he's gone through intersections. He was doing reverse donuts in an intersection and going very, very rapidly. He's going through these downtown streets now. It's kind of a maze, kind of a warren of streets, some of them one way, some of them very narrow. He's right by the railroad tracks here.
That's the track.
And it's frightening to see. It's just one of the many unsettling things we have been watching throughout this day and this evening when there have been protests of ICE raids.
Vignes and Bochet.
Vignes and Bochet down in downtown Los Angeles. This is kind of near I believe the men's central jail, the men's central jail down there that's used by LA County, and there he goes. Now, luckily, he's on a street. It's one of those back streets. It's small, And we don't know. We'll have to see if he's trying to make his way back toward the demonstrations to see what his motive may be.
Plaza by Cesar Chavez. He's over in that complex there.
And
he's definitely out of control.
And as Gabe mentioned, the LAPD is aware of him. They know that he's doing this, and they're going to try to. I don't know if they're going to try to get him. Who's going to be available to do it? We talked about the resources that have been stretched so thin for the LAPD as they deal with the unrest that's happening in downtown LA. Who's available to chase this guy? I don't think anyone is, at least at the moment where we're seeing it. And do they want to? Do they want to chase him when he's running through these streets at such high rates of speed?
For safety's sake, Mark, they definitely would want to be involved in this. The problem is, I don't think they have the resources right now.
Wow. Well, again, if you're just joining us, Eyewitness News continuing our coverage of the demonstrations, the violence, the charges and countercharges by officials at the federal, state, and local level about the ICE raids and about the federal response, the local response, and what people are doing out in the streets. And in the middle of that, of our reporting of that, we are seeing this man behaving very erratically in this minivan. We're not sure if he's either targeting the protesters or if he's one of them, but it appears, at least, that he is in some way unhinged. He doesn't have a shirt on. He's driving this minivan at very high rates of speed. There's significant damage. There have been a few collisions with various inanimate objects. No people that we know of yet. No vehicles that we know of yet. But it's only, I think, by sheer luck that hasn't happened. As we see him now continuing, Gabe, can you give us an indication of what street he's on?
Yeah, Mark, this is Cesar Chavez. He appears to be northbound on Cesar Chavez on Gallardo Street. And, we've seen situations to almost purposefully hit other drivers, and that's the really scary part here. We are actually switching out helicopters, so you're going to see my picture and the helicopter that I'm in get a little further away, and we have our other Air 7 on the scene as well, trying to locate this vehicle, but it is definitely a scary situation for anybody that's in the downtown area right now.
Right. In addition to everything else that's happening, and just to recap, there were planned demonstrations this afternoon, beginning at 2 o'clock at LA City Hall. There was another demonstration happening this afternoon and into the early part of the evening at the federal complex, the federal building in downtown Los Angeles, just a few blocks away from LA City Hall. Those demonstrations merged this afternoon into about 1,000 people and growing as the day wore on. And that came amid word, of course, that the National Guard troops that were activated and federalized by the Trump administration, by the president, were moving into Los Angeles to, in his words, restore law and order. The LAPD has been dealing with this and responding. The LA County Sheriff's Department has been dealing with this and responding as well. We heard earlier from the Chief of Police. One of the things that was very important that he mentioned was that there were claims in the initial hours of the first evening of the demonstrations, when things were starting to get out of hand, that when ICE and federal agents were requesting help from the LAPD, that the LAPD did not respond or delayed responding for 2 hours. The chief saying adamantly and emphatically that was not the case, that the LAPD was not given advance notice of what ICE was doing, and so because of that did not have officers pre-deployed and pre-positioned so that they could respond in a crowd control capacity, and that officers took about 38 minutes to assemble and then head to the area where those federal agents were, and they were hampered by both the size of the crowd and by the fact that tear gas had already been deployed. Because officers hadn't gotten advance notice, they weren't equipped with some of the things that they would need for a crowd control or a riot sort of situation. So a lot of them didn't have gas masks, so they went in anyway, many of those officers being incapacitated or at least having their effectiveness deteriorated by the tear gas that had been deployed by the federal officers. But the chief saying emphatically the LAPD did not ignore the call for help on that night. Also saying that, here we go, looking at this driver here. This was playing out about 6 or 7 minutes ago. This guy going through, it looked like he was it really looks like he was targeting folks and trying to hit him with his vehicle. But we don't know. We do know that the crowd was very angry at him, judging by what we're seeing in response, all the projectiles being thrown at him. And then he took off. And he then went down the street. You see he's got no shirt on. He's throwing stuff out of the vehicle. I guess it looks like one of the windows got shattered by one of the bricks or rocks. And look at the speed with which he left that scene. Later on, we saw him just driving erratically, again, heading into Olvera Street, running into a traffic control bollard. And, okay, is that the vehicle there on the left? That's it. All right, do we know whether the guy is in there? Oh, yeah, there he's coming out. What's he got in the back? He's looking into the back of that minivan. We don't know. If we have a location, at least we can put this out on our air. And if someone is going to try to... Savannah and First Street, East 1st Street in downtown Los Angeles. Again, Savannah and East 1st Street in downtown LA. This is where that minivan driver has come to a stop. He's opened up the back and he's stepping away. Still, as far as we can tell, with no shirt on. There's no night sun here because there's no LAPD or law enforcement helicopter to light up the scene or the vehicle, but he did walk across the street. I don't know in which direction he is walking because we can't really orient ourselves in the dark. He's getting into a second vehicle. Getting into another vehicle is what we're being told. Oh, there he is. Oh, there they are. Officers now responding. These are sheriff's deputies. They're putting him in custody right now. There he goes. That is the end of that escapade. We don't know if anyone got hurt. We lost track of him for a while. We don't know if anybody got hit. We don't know if he hurt anyone or whether he was actually trying to hurt someone. It certainly did look at one point that he was swerving toward somebody on a bicycle and trying to hit them, but he did not, that we saw. Bruce, this is just an amazing thing that's unfolding here, given everything else that's going on.
Yeah, for this guy to be driving like that is just dangerous beyond. I'm glad to see that the sheriffs have been requested and are responding to LAPD's request for help. My only question would be, what took so long? Clearly, LAPD was overmatched. And when you declare mutual aid, you get the bigger agency, LA County Sheriffs, which, in the scheme of things, they are actually in charge of a civil unrest situation like this. So I would ask why it took so long. And the other thing I haven't seen are some of the other agencies in Southern California responding to this.
Yeah, we're not seeing. That's an excellent point. It would be good to know. It's hard to tell at night too because you can't always see the vehicles or see insignia on patches or things like that would indicate that someone's there. Sheriff's deputies, of course, pretty easy to make out with the sheriff's insignia on the side of the car and their khaki uniforms. So they're pretty easy to spot. But as far as other police departments or police agencies, we don't know of any that are also helping in this response to the unrest in downtown LA. This is the minivan that guy was driving. They've cleared it. There's thus far, I think there was one other deputy who went through and saw that there was no one else inside the vehicle, but they're going to check it for other things, perhaps weapons, contraband, or anything else that would indicate danger or perhaps have a clue to what his motive was. So in addition to all the unrest, in addition to all the things that are happening, fires being set, officers being attacked, all of that. In addition to that, we had this guy driving erratically through downtown LA, putting a lot of people at risk, including police, demonstrators, everyone, bystanders. And he is now under arrest thanks to the LA County Sheriff's Department. The LAPD having its hands full, dealing with what has been happening throughout the day and into the night. Some 10 arrests thus far. We know that number is going to go up. They've been focusing, as the chief mentioned, on clearing intersections, clearing streets, getting people out of areas where they can cause damage or injure people, and the effort to arrest those people will be ongoing. They're going to focus on people who have been attacking police officers, attacking innocent people, and vandalizing buildings and vandalizing police vehicles as well. They're going to focus on that. They're going to, in particular, perhaps on the people who are throwing projectiles and bird scooters off of the bridge onto the 101 freeway and damaging those highway patrol vehicles and putting officers there at risk. And the people who've been blockading streets are going to do a lot of that, so that you can expect, as they comb through the video that's going to be everywhere after this event has wound down, they're going to be combing through all of that, and they're going to find people. This is a tactic they've been using actually since 1992 and perhaps before that. In the LA riots of 1992, people were arrested a year later, some of them, for actions that were taken during that civil unrest period. Because they were caught on video, and video even more prevalent now. So you can expect a lot of people who think they got away with things tonight are going to find out that they have not. LA Mayor Karen Bass. Oh yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Well, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask. I don't know if Air 7HP can pull in over by City Hall, but it appears that the sheriff's mobile field force is doing some sort of operation by City Hall, possibly pushing a crowd further away.
Okay.
I saw some of their trucks, and some of them are launching less lethal and flashbang.
Okay, let's take a look. What you're looking at here, these are highway patrol vehicles that are kind of securing that bridge over, I believe that's a bridge over the 101 freeway. Let's go get closer to City Hall if we can and see if what Bruce is mentioning is actually happening. That would be a mutual aid situation, and we're going to see if there is a skirmish line. We see that fire, the dumpster fire that is there. Maybe are they forming around that to try to move these people out? Let's tilt down a little bit with the camera and see what we're looking at. All right, well, we just saw that appears to be fireworks that are being launched in some way by people against the officers. I do not see a skirmish line here, but let's take a look and see if there are other indications of a mutual aid response by the LA County Sheriff's Department that would help to clear these intersections and get some of these people out that are up to no good out here setting fires and the like. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Bruce, thanks for the tip. We're going to look for it. In the meantime, we want to tell you what the mayor has been saying, speaking earlier today, about the need for these protests to be peaceful.
First of all, I think protests need to be peaceful, period. And any time it deteriorates into violence, that is a problem, and it absolutely messes with the overall message. That's not peaceful, what was happening. It's not peaceful for people to be on the highways. It's not peaceful for people to throw rocks or bottles. That's not peaceful. And if you are going to entertain violence, if you are going to try to take over a freeway, then you are going to suffer the consequences of doing that. I don't think that LAPD, the sheriff, and certainly not myself, are not shying away from statements like that.
The mayor adamant that law-breaking will not be tolerated. The chief saying that earlier today as well, also saying that at the moment, at least as the evening was unfolding, that the department, at least in this area, was overwhelmed. And that's his word. So we're going to see whether the National Guard is going to have any effect on what's happening here. You're seeing that commercial-grade fireworks that the chief talked about that are being deployed, or being not deployed, but fired. Some of that has been fired against his officers, and he spoke about the fact that that can actually kill you if it hits you. And so there is a lot going on that they are having to deal with. And the question of whether the National Guard is needed, the chief indicated that the first two nights they hadn't gotten to the point where they would have called them, but tonight he would have to reassess and decide or look at whether that was a necessary part of the mix. It's the numbers of people involved in this have dwindled quite a bit. There were several thousand outside City Hall that were marching around and then marching to the federal detention center in downtown LA in the federal building. Several thousand people were there. Those numbers have dropped away to what must be a few hundred, perhaps, maybe less than that are going from one location to another, scattering around. As soon as police form a skirmish line and move them out, they go somewhere else. And what we're seeing now is some people setting fires, putting up barricades, trying to close down intersections. But the numbers of people causing trouble is about, I would say, Bruce, maybe starting to match the numbers of law enforcement people who are out there, and that may turn the tide in favor of the police. If at least if the numbers are dwindling, maybe they can get a handle on this. Bruce, you still with us? I think we've...
numbers are kind of equaling out. They were overwhelmed earlier today and this afternoon, but I think now that you also have the sheriffs there, the manpower pool for law enforcement is greatly increased, and they can take back some of these streets. And maybe we will see a curfew later on. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a question that was asked during the press conference, whether a curfew would be implemented in LA. The chief said that he had spoken with Sheriff Luna about the possibility of a curfew being implemented, but none has been implemented thus far. It would take an action by the LA County Supervisors and the LA City Council to implement a curfew, both city and or county-wide. And that certainly has been done in the past in situations where things have gotten out of hand. Just if you're out on the streets after 10 o'clock at night or whatever time it is, you are subject to arrest, and that certainly is a tool that allows law enforcement to put an end to scenes like we're seeing here, where this fire is being set in the middle of this intersection, a food truck driving by. But what we're seeing, I guess, is with the numbers dwindling, as you mentioned, the law enforcement agencies that are responding are in a better position to get a handle on this. But we should note, the LAPD and the Sheriff's Department, both well below full strength. Officers are retiring and or leaving both departments faster than they can be replaced. And along with that, there are budget constraints that are causing a real strain on police resources and police availability. We've been doing stories about how the Sheriff's Department is suffering. Their people are being so overtaxed that they're actually, it's affecting their alertness. They're having to work so many hours and so many days and so many shifts that it is starting to affect them physically and mentally. And there's a real concern about both the LAPD officers, the rank and file, and the Sheriff's Department rank and file, about how to, whether they can deal with too many more incidents such as these. And then you have the budgetary concerns, both the city and the county, both having to make severe budget cuts, caused in large part by the response to the fires that we had in January that really put a hole in the budgets of both governments. And you really have, there's not much room to deal with this sort of thing. They're going to deal with it, but it's going to affect other things much later on. That's a story for another night. In the meantime, ABC News reporter Matt Gutman, he was out there as well behind the police lines earlier today, showing us the projectiles that were being fired and or launched by both sides in these clashes.
That line of officers from the LAPD pushing everybody back and using a tremendous amount of non-lethal force. You can see those flashbang canisters, the sponges, 40 millimeter like this, that they fired at people just to continue to push them back. I don't think I've seen this much use of non-lethal in a very long time. We've also seen significant number of rocks, bottles, projectiles that are very dangerous being hurled at the LAPD on this side of the skirmish line. The size of the rocks and projectiles, I'm going to see if I can try to find another one for you, that were thrown were significant. This is a piece of concrete or road that was picked up and chucked. You can see some of the sharper end stones over here, much larger ones than that were hauled to police. So this is something that I haven't seen quite some time in downtown LA. It was very intense.
Indeed, and it's not something that you would expect to see in downtown LA, and we'll get to that in a second. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's comments threatening to deploy U.S. Marines on U.S. soil drew a small group of protesters. You see them there. This is at Camp Pendleton, More than 24 people there holding up signs at the main gate to Camp Pendleton with slogans such as, quote, "We're on a slippery slope to fascism," and "Your oath is to the Constitution." President Trump has already federalized and deployed those National Guard troops to L.A. after the protests erupted over the immigration raids on Friday. This coming despite strong objection from the governor of California and the mayor of Los Angeles. In fact, the Newsom administration is going to file a lawsuit, perhaps as early as tomorrow, to try to prevent that from happening. In the meantime, Patrick Saunders, he's an Air Force veteran, he organized this protest outside Camp Pendleton.
We want to show our support to the military members that work here. We want to kind of remind them of what their duty is to us, but additionally we want to make it very publicly known that we condemn any sort of action by the administration of using active duty or National Guard troops on U.S. citizens.
U.S. Northern Command confirms 500 Marines from 29 Palms are on what's called prepare to deploy status. That means they're ready to go, should they be needed, and, quote, to augment and support the DOD's protection of federal property and personnel efforts. And there's a live look now at downtown Los Angeles. Still spot fires here and there. Still groups of people gathering, mainly at intersections, either blocking them, barricading them, or setting fires. There have been some continued skirmishes with police, and there was a guy in a minivan that started driving around erratically and nearly took some people out. He's under arrest. Some 10 other people, at least, that we know of as of earlier this evening are under arrest by the LAPD. 17 others arrested by the Highway Patrol. Both of those numbers are expected to go up as we continue to watch the law enforcement response to the unrest that is taking place in Los Angeles. I'm joined now by Jory Rand. You've been covering this all day, and you kind of watched this evolve throughout the day. What did you notice, and what struck you?
It seems that tensions are rising and falling as we go throughout the day, and it seems like there's a group of troublemakers who, when things are calming down, they start things back up again. We see things calm down, then we see 5 Waymo cars lit on fire. We see that start to calm down. We see a barricade situation with furniture grabbed from Grant Park. We see that calm down, and then we see protesters all over the city starting fires. This gentleman, that's something I've never seen before. Typically, when we see a gathering like this, you do see people start to treat this like a street takeover, start doing donuts. So when you first see that, you just think that person is part of it. They clearly were not, as they drew the attention of those gathered there and then took off through the city in what we've seen. But again, it is a group of people who have been allowed to do this. We saw the protesters who were on the overpass of the 101 freeway. Once the 101 was cleared, and it looked like order had been restored, those people were allowed to stay on top of the 101 freeway, and they started pouring things on top of those CHP vehicles that were parked below, and that was allowed to continue for hours. Now,
that was a mistake, clearly, by law enforcement. You don't leave people, maybe they didn't have the resources. I shouldn't say it was a mistake, but it turned out it didn't work well.
It did not work out well, and you look at the numbers of the protesters out there, the numbers of law enforcement, and what happens if they decide to go in and make a move on these people. What's going to happen? Is that going to start a really violent confrontation with authorities? Is that going to start a panic where you start sending people running through a situation where you have a potential trampling of a crowd? It's a very tough situation for them to be in. And the fact that they left those vehicles exposed and the protesters in place on the overpass made it for a very disastrous situation.
It is a thin line between enforcement and provocation. It is a line that the LAPD and other local police agencies have trod, sometimes successfully, sometimes catastrophically badly, for decades, dating back to 1965.
And it's actually been impressive to see some of the restraint we've seen from these different jurisdictions, because they have been under siege all day with projectiles and bottles and rocks and fireworks and smoke canisters, and very little response from the LAPD. Very few arrests. We've talked about, 27 throughout the day from 2 different jurisdictions. There could easily have been hundreds of arrests given the behavior we have seen on the streets of Los Angeles.
What they're trying to do is get the streets cleared, restore order as quickly as possible and as thoroughly as possible. They're having trouble doing that tonight because the crowd is dispersing and going from place to place. If, as Bruce Thomas mentioned, a retired law enforcement officer, if that mutual aid response is now in effect and taking effect, you'll see other agencies coming in and providing the manpower, providing the bodies, basically to go out and secure, take ground and hold it, as opposed to take ground and then having to move somewhere else and losing the ground that they've taken. So that's what's hopefully a helpful development in this as we watch live now what's happening in downtown LA. These are pictures from Air 7, Spring Street and 2nd Street. That vehicle there that's on the side of the road, I don't know if that has been vandalized and is immobile because of that, or whether someone is parking there and doing it deliberately. What we are seeing, the chief mentioned these people that go from place to place, and they cause mayhem, they cause problems, and they are dressed.
No audio. Wow. So what's really going on with my computer? Yeah, believe it or not, oh, I was gonna say,
dressed in hoodies, they're dressed in black, and they bring hammers and they chip at the concrete, and that's where they get their rocks from. I was going to mention that when we talked about what Matt Gutman was reporting about the rocks that were being thrown by police. If you're walking around downtown LA, there are rocks.
Needs to bring out more firefighters because they're going to burn this city down because they cannot cover East LA all the way down to Long Beach to San Bernardino. They're going to have firefighters with a firefighter squad with a police force that could let them come in, put out the fire, and move out. With somebody on top, the helicopter giving or using drones to let them know, hey, we got a fire on 7th Street and 24th. Send somebody down there, boom. They got a task force with the escorted firefighters to come in, put the fire out with a paramedic in case anybody's injured, pull them out. That's what they need to do because you can't be having things burning like that. It's going to start, if these bushes turn into flames, the whole city is going to start. It's going to be so hard for the firefighters. They're going to have to call people out of state, and that's going to break LA's budget because they're losing close to $500 million an hour. You know, it's not right.
It's always tough in these type of situations. There's only so many radio frequencies. There's a lot of things going on. A lot of people trying to talk, but trying to
and then they're waving the Mexican flag. They're still waving the Mexican flag. You know, they said, we like to work hard. We work.
Maybe there was some other things going on. They couldn't release some personnel to secure the
That's the problem with the Democratic Party, you know, sometimes. You know, it's that sometimes they can't protect it. They can't come through a lot of times.
In order. What you do have is when you have kind of dispersed crowds,
it's sad.
You don't want a big crowd of people in one area unless you have enough people to keep them in there.
See, they could just start doing terrorist attack on us, on everybody, using drones, using fire, bombing, doing everything. Oh snap, they're over there too? Wow.
By your personnel, your law enforcement personnel being able to maneuver, you can keep them from getting in a big tower base. But when you let them solidify in a certain area, they're going to start looking for.
You don't want to be at the wrong place at the wrong. This looks like Las Vegas, so.
Dumpsters or whatever.
I mean, Las Vegas. This looks like how it was in downtown LA before COVID.
So when you have the officers in a static line, then they become more vulnerable. But if they have a maneuver capability.
Before COVID, it was shoulder to shoulder walking down the street.
Different agencies in LA City and County.
You were like, excuse me, coming through.
Disturbances ranging in size from.
Now there's nobody out there, so they're trying to bring in immigrants to fill that up. That's why they just opened the borders for 4 years because all those people left. They needed all those people back. They're like, come back. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they thought about that or what. I don't know. I'm just confused. But all of downtown LA was filled. It was just packed. Now it's ghost town. It's empty. It's just workers. You know, just people going to work and going back home.
How is that brought to bear?
Well, there's quite a bit of
training. And dying.
There's in the Police Post Academy, learning domain 24 has to do with disturbances. That's the initial training. Deputy personnel get a lot of emergency response team training in the custodial environment. And then again, when they go to patrol school, get a little dose of it again. And then recurrent training in field operations, and especially when big events will be coming up, like for example, the Olympics.
Well, are those black cars police officers? Oh yeah, they are. These are the big boys. Stealth mode. elite forces.
So we're better prepared. Stations will.
Oh no, those are regular vehicles. My bad.
Helmets or face shields that are in good working order, and have all the flex cups and map booking.
So it's just crazy right now.
So everybody's tuned up, ready to go. If a mobile field force has to get together and come together. Most police cars, deputies, policemen are one person in the car for the most part, and handle things by themselves until situations like this come together. They're just too many. And because we are outnumbered, we have to come together in what we call a mobile field force, basically a well-choreographed drill team. A smaller group of people being able to intervene in a bigger group of people, incorporating a variety of formations, movements, strategies, tactics, declaring unlawful assembly, having arrest teams,
look at this right here.
Mobile bookings,
look at this
and a variety of things, cameras, recording them. Securing county buildings, county courthouses, hospitals.
There's a lot of people right here. If you have a lot of people here, look at Tow Guy. Tow Guy's coming out, trying to get that money. Rent gotta be paid. Gotta pay the senorita, or she's gonna leave you.
We talked earlier about the fine line between
my big thing is
and enforcement, between getting the job done of getting the people who are causing problems off the street, arresting them, moving the crowd out, versus inflaming the crowd. When LA erupted in
this is crazy. If you got hot spots like this, fire here, fire there, Beverly Hills, downtown LA, Compton, Long Beach. It's just too much, you know, but they got the police force. They need to be more organized, send in a unit that could put out the fire with the protection of the police, protecting the firefighters as they go in.
So there's they're out there to do the job, but you can cause a provocation as well. And when you're out there doing crowd control, how do you prevent that sort of a provocation from happening?
Oh, okay, they're back. They used to drive those trucks all around the place after 9/11. Wow, look at this. That's a big ass city. This city's big.
But there was obviously a lot of other tensions in the community back then. There was just one shot with one person could not have sparked up a whole riot back then. So there's other things that are beyond what the officers.
Well, it's going on. That's it for now. You guys tune back in. We'll be up this later on in 8 hours, and we're gonna see the status of this event. I'm gonna keep on watching. You guys, thanks for coming by. Have a good day.